You know, I do a lot of work in the corporate sector for some pretty big companies, and I do a lot of work in the corporate sector for some smaller businesses. And one thing that all employers and managers seem to care a lot about these days is this thing called the All Associates Engagement Survey. There's different titles for it, but it basically are the surveys that tell the leadership how engaged their people are. And I will tell you, those scores, from what I've seen, and I've seen a bunch of them, are not that great these days. There's a few organizations that I work in that are pretty good, but for the most part, all associate engagement scores are super low. In fact, Gallup, in a recent poll, says that engagement for modern work professionals is somewhere, disengagement, excuse me, is somewhere around 85%. That's a staggering number. That's a staggering percentage of lack of purpose, because that's really what disengagement means, is it's a lack of purpose. And when I did my webinar leading through the churn not too long ago, you know, I cited 3 components that make up what I call the churn. The churn is our external enemy as Rooftop leaders. It's the social tension that exists between us and the other humans in our arena, and it stands between us and the goals that we're trying to achieve, that social friction, that social tension. And that churn has gotten worse and worse and worse over the years in an insidious way, to where now you have these little twisters, these little tornadoes of churn everywhere you look. And even in some places, you have sinkholes of churn where organizations and communities have just opened up and bodies just fall in, right? Because there's so much distraction, there's so much disengagement, there's so much distrust. Well, today we're talking about disengagement. How do you as a leader, whether you are a community leader, a stay-at-home dad, whether you work in the corporate realm, a small business owner, maybe you're in the military, but how do you overcome disengagement with your people, with the people that you're trying to lead, the people that you're trying to serve? I mean, that's a major problem, right? Because we know that humans are meaning-seeking creatures, right? We know that without purpose in our life, we perish. Whether that's an individual or an organization, we must have purpose in our life. Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning makes it so clear. Simon Sinek, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. I mean, there's an overwhelming body of research that shows that humans are meaning-seeking creatures. We crave purpose, we take action off purpose. So what do we do when that absence of purpose is so pronounced? It causes lots of problems in the churn. If you look around our country today, I will submit to you that our young folks in many ways lack purpose. In most cases where you see high amounts of friction and tension or gaps between different groups, there's an absence of purpose that needs to be addressed. We need to address purpose in our special operations community, in our law enforcement community, right? We need to really find it, and we need to find ways to bridge beyond our different groups and find a purpose that is bigger than any one group, bigger than any one individual. That's what Rooftop leaders do. So how do we do that? What are some tools that we can do? The first thing I would say is think about relevance. It seems to me today that a lot of leaders are trying to be the best at what they do, and that's fine, right? But if you're doing that and it's not relevant to the people in your arena, then it's going to be very hard to have a purpose that really lights you up or gets you bigger than just your own individual journey. And there's so much of that happening these days. We're wired for a level of self-actualization. Yes, we want to be the best at what we do. Yes, we want to attain the highest level of performance that we can. But in our core nature, we are wired to serve and connect with other human beings. And to the degree that we can pursue relevance in what we do and use relevance as a metric. When I talk about owning a room, and when I teach Green Berets how to own a room using high-stakes connection techniques like narrative and listening, owning a room means you're the most relevant person in the room. Because that's what people follow in rough times. Did you know that? In these times of churn, your clients, they're gonna buy from the person who's relevant to their pain and dreams. They're gonna invest in the small business owner who's relevant to their goals. They're gonna follow the leader who is relevant to their dreams. That's just what we do as humans. So putting relevance front and center in your pursuit of purpose is a good thing to do. Number 2 is focus on clarity. You know, Donald Miller says it in his book, Story Brand. People follow clarity also, especially in times of crisis. With what we have right now with the pandemic, the next 6 months are going to be tough. We follow leaders who are clear. So spend some time getting clear on what you stand for, because when you're clear and you have a sense of your own purpose, it creates safety for those in your arena, and they start to get a sense of themselves, right? So relevance, clarity. And the third thing is, I believe with purpose, is it should scare you a little bit. It should seem somewhat daunting. It shouldn't just be a no-brainer. It should be something that is a pretty big dragon to slay. And maybe you don't know how you're going to do it. That's okay, right? But relevance, clarity, and let it scare you a little bit. Those are some great attributes of overcoming disengagement. And model that, right? Just pursue that purpose, even if you don't have all the answers, right? Do what Rex Mann did after he had his stroke and he needed to work with the Eastern Band Cherokee with the American chestnut. He just put one foot in front of the other, and he didn't even know how to walk at that time because he had to relearn. That's what I'm talking about. That kind of commitment, that kind of relevance, that kind of clarity, that kind of pursuit of something that scares you. That's what we need. And that's what people gravitate to. When they see a leader do that, we're drawn to that. And finally, if you're really struggling for that purpose, is ask yourself, what do I want to leave behind? What are the tracks that I want to leave behind? What do I want people to say about me 15 years after I'm gone? Let that be the wellspring of where you go, and people will follow you, buy from you, and invest in you. And disengagement will start to recede, right? So, I appreciate you being here. Make sure before you leave that you go in and you subscribe to our channel. Make sure that you like it, you follow us, and share this with other leaders. We're putting 10 million rooftop leaders into the arena to overcome the churn, and it starts with you. Thanks for what you do. I'll see you on the rooftop.